So this is my rifle and Kora's rifle. So I actually haven't even used it yet, but it's going to be the rifle that I use for deer, antelope, elk, whatever. And then I'm going to have it rigged up for a remote trigger for Kora to use for deer hunting, and then also taking it on a trip this coming week for folks with disabilities to do some prairie dog shooting. So I'm going to let them try that out. I just need to make sure everything's working the way I left it last time. So I've only dry fired it with the system before, so now we're going to do a live fire test. But first I need to put the system back together. So this idea came from a good friend of mine that rigged it up on a crossbow. So he used like a head from a rubber mallet and cored it out to fit to a crossbow forearm, and then stuck a syringe in it. So the idea is with this syringe and then a metal rod, you hook a tube up to it and push on a smaller syringe, and as you push the fluid out of the smaller syringe through the tube and out the bigger syringe, this rod will pull the trigger. So if you've got a medical life, you might have some of the supplies. So like this is a 60 milliliter syringe, a 12 milliliter syringe, and then I started out with like a feeding tube, which is only like a foot long or something like that. So that was too short. So the guy I got this idea from said to use like a tubing for a small engine gas line. So that's what this is here, and it's nice and pliable also. All right, so first we're going to mount the bigger syringe here. So what I did on this rifle is it has an M-lock forearm. So I was able to add a pick rail here, but I think this should work with any rifle that has a Picatinny rail on the side. So I mounted it back there, got the rod bent so that it'll touch the trigger there. I'm just going to snug these bolts up. All right, so now the main syringe is on there. Then the second syringe with the gas line will hook on here. So it's important to make sure that you don't have any air bubbles in either of the syringes. So what the fluid is windshield wiper fluid. So the idea there is you don't want to use air because that compresses. And this is all a shout out to my buddy that came up with this idea. I just took it and adapted it to a rifle. So this fluid is windshield wiper fluid because it doesn't freeze, so make sure you use the winter blend, and air compresses, so that doesn't work great. So you need a fluid. You could use water in the summertime, but we just stick to windshield wiper fluid and then it's never a problem. So let me just show you the trigger part of it. So I'm gonna run the action. We're empty. We're safe here. I'm gonna do a dry fire. So normally you'd have a clamp on this hose so that nothing leaks out, so make sure you're unclamped, otherwise you'll start pushing on the syringe and then just pop a cap and lose your fluid. So this here, I'm just gonna show, there's a little gap between the bar and the trigger, so I'm gonna push it until it just touches the trigger. And then make sure I got enough fluid. I've got about 5 milliliters. That might be a little bit shy, but we'll try it. So we'll just listen carefully for a click. I'll hold my microphone next to it. All right, there it worked. Perfect. All right, so I'm going to put us on pause here, and then we'll see you outside, and we'll do a real shot. All right, so Kora has a permit to shoot from a vehicle with her disability. So I found this, which is all made in the USA. It's the Extra Arm Annihilator. So this will allow Kora to shoot from the passenger side where her wheelchair is mounted. So we're gonna test this thing out this morning. Alright, now I put the rifle on the mount. It uses an ARCA rail. And we got a target out in the field there. So we're going to be testing out the extra arm mount, using our trigger system again, and then also this scope mate camera so I can help Kora aim without having to be right on the rifle. So we'll see how all that works together. Alright, so this is how we're going to be set up. So Kora's chair would be right here, and then I'm going to be sitting right behind her, and I'll help her with aiming and then the trigger. So we've got the camera mounted on there, but I'm actually going to connect it with Wi-Fi to this iPad. Alright, so there we are connected with the iPad. So the grass is going pretty tall, but you can kind of make out the target in the grass there. So I'm going to chamber around. Got our trigger hooked up. And we're gonna aim and touch one off here. Alright, here we go. So this is like 436 yards or something like that, so it's a bit of a poke for a first try here. But we're on target. I got my trigger here ready to go. I don't know if you could hear it, but that hit. So when we're actually hunting, I'll have the trigger in Kora's hand, and I'll just help her push that in when it's time and we're all lined up. So just for practice, I'm gonna do it all myself here. That was another hit. Awesome.
Sweetie?
Corbin, stay back.
Push. Perfect.